Hey everybody, I'm Jeffrey Vizcaino, your director of social media for Playbill, and I'm here with the one and only ALOK. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here in Edinburgh.
Okay, so I let's start from the beginning. You are so well known, especially on social media. When did Edinburgh kind of like come into your frame of like that? I need to go there. I need to be a part of this.
All of my British comic friends were like, so there's this wild thing that happens once a year where we're all sleep deprived. It's chaotic, but it's some of the funniest shit in your entire life. So I came here for the first time myself 2 years ago, and I fell so deeply in love because there's just such a different culture of performance in the UK. The audiences are so excited about theater, so ready to laugh, and I learned so much while I'm here.
Totally. So for those who are watching, tell them what your show is and a little bit about it without giving too much away.
Yeah, my show's called Harry Situation, and it's a show about what it's like being trans during these anti-trans times, and using comedy as a way of saying, even though things are really hard, we can do something different with funny than we can with sad. So a lot of my work is inspired by this idea of emotional alchemy, or like taking negativity and transforming it into positivity or beauty. And that's what I try to show in the show, is like, here are these horrible things that are happening around inside me, and here's how I'm still maintaining my joy despite it.
Absolutely. I obviously know you from social media. I know you as a poet, as an advocate. But I guess for me, it was very new when I saw your Netflix special with Hannah and their stuff. So when did comedy kind of come into your peripheral of like, this is something I know I'm good at and I want to pursue?
Yeah, totally. So I headlined the New York Comedy Festival in 2021 with my first stand-up show. And I was like, oh, I found my people. I think for a long time, the only representation I had seen of trans people in comedy was as the butt of the joke, people making fun of us. So it didn't feel like an environment that was warm or conducive to me. And then I started to meet other queer and trans comics, and that's what's so special about being here at the Fringe, is there's so many of us. And actually realized, like, we've always been a part of stand-up. And once I began to learn from them that I get to occupy this space, it was so powerful because comedy has always been how I've survived, and now I get to be honest in my art. Like, these things don't just come from a place of wanting to be funny. It's like wanting to be able to go on with my life.
Totally. And how would you describe your style of comedy?
Yeah, I'm really cerebral. So I often take like really complex ideas and I think, how do I synthesize this down to its finest parts so that everyone can understand it? I really love intellectual humor, but I also really love like transgressive crass humor, because I feel like, especially as a trans person, I'm so expected to like have good manners and be super respectable and poised, and in comedy I get to like have a little fun. So in this show I talk a lot about using the male urinal,
Yes.
which is such a funny experience. And I feel really excited that comedy allows me to sort of like go into those elements and dimensions of my life that so often I can't speak about elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, what I really took away from your show and what I loved about your show, and it kind of, I know it felt really special here, Fringe, is how vulnerable you are, as well as, I mean, I know this sounds maybe cliche, but just how authentic you were in telling and talking about your experience. Has that always come natural for you, or is that something that's taken time?
Definitely not come natural for me. I grew up in a very Indian household where we were taught like feelings don't exist. If you're feeling sad, work harder and they'll go away. And so I had to learn how to do that on my own. But I want to thank the queer community for that, because it was only through other queer people that I realized like sharing our stories is how we realize that we have so much more in common, and that's how we build meaningful community and friendship. So being a part of queer worlds where I was actually encouraged for being myself was so new for me. I think that's why we call it chosen family. Is a lot of our queer friendships are where we actually learn how to become fully fledged human beings.
Absolutely. One thing that I, especially this year at the Fringe, I've noticed is that this year's feels particularly queer this season, with all the different acts that are coming on. That must be, as a performer, so exciting to not only have a lot of queer people come see your show, but feel like your people are here with you, performing alongside you.
It's so nice. I feel like oftentimes when I'm on the road, am I the only trans person you've ever met? I feel that way with my audiences sometimes, and it feels charged that the only encounter is in a performance context where, okay, you're comfortable with me on a stage, but would you be anywhere else in the world? And so it's so fun to be part of, like, so I just see trans people around, and I'm like, we're doing it, with like Dylan's show here,
Yes.
to have my sisters here with me, and to be able to just be at the bar afterwards and laugh together. It's a very different experience than what I often have when I'm on tour.
Yeah. And tell me, you've been, obviously, you said the Fringe before with that. What is because I've talked to a few people today. I've talked to Catherine Cohen. I've talked to a few, and they say what's great about the Fringe is it's like being on the road, but like squeezed in, so you get to really harness and work on that. Is that stuff that you're looking to explore while you're here this year at the Fringe?
Yeah, I'm seeing so many shows, like 6, 7, 8 shows a day. And I'm doing it with like a student's mindset of being like, how are other comics grappling with the material? What strategies? And then we all talk shop later, like logistics around specials and managers and agents and venues. And it's an industry event. And I think people often don't think of creativity as an industry, but what's so beautiful here is that you get to network with other workers and actually figure out like, how do you make a life that sustains this?
That's fascinating. So this, while only this is not only is this a performance opportunity, but it's a convention of sorts for the artists themselves.
Absolutely. And I think it's really alienating sometimes to be an artist in the world where people are like, why do you care so deeply about these things? And when you actually have other people like, I feel the exact same way, it's so validating.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any acts that you're excited to look? They already on your list of like, oh, I definitely need to check out here at the Fringe this year?
I mean, so many. I'm excited to see Chloe Petz, who was in my Netflix special with me, and Hannah Gatsby's here as well, so it's going to be a little family reunion. And I just saw it, but I want to shout it out. My friend Dylan Mulvaney's show, Fat Gag, was so powerful. I was with her while she was writing it, and to finally see it come to light was so meaningful.
That was the very first show I saw here last week. I mean, I won't get in too far in this, but the fact that she started writing this like in mid-June and to where it is now, like, it's amazing.
I know, we were all so stressed out. We were like, is this going to actually happen?
Amazing. All right. So one thing I want to tie in because like anyone who follows you on Instagram knows your beat, your fashion is so amazing and so inspiring for so many people as well. And last night I did not take away from that at all. Tell me, like, where do you get inspired when it comes to your art and your look and your design? Because so much of how I know you is like, I'm excited to be like, oh, what is the look like going to be tonight? What is it going to look like today? Tell me what inspires you in that way.
You know, I feel like what's more controversial than being trans in comedy is being fashionable in comedy. Because the kind of uniform garb is very much like jeans and a t-shirt. But I'm like, you know what? So much of my background is in fashion, and what fashion is actually about is a celebration of life, and that's what comedy is too. And so when I'm getting dressed for a show, it's like I have to pull a look. So a lot of my inspiration just comes from, like, especially for what I'm wearing on stage, what is something that I want to communicate about myself that words can't do? It's an energy. And for my first show yesterday that you saw, I wanted to wear this tight bodycon dress as a way to say, this show is about loving yourself. People are going to look at you, judge you, persecute you. That's about their insecurities. You have one God-given life. Take advantage of it. Seize the day. And I think you can communicate that with fashion in a way that words can't reach.
Well, I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. I will say that there's two young people behind me, presenting, and I heard one of them say that they were so excited to see you because they're like, they got so excited because they often imagine about meeting their idols, but then after the show they're like, this was more than I could ever imagine for, and everything. Like, and you must get that type of response from so many people. The fact that you've performed in like over 40 countries, what is that experience like to hear so many people who know you from social but then get to see you in real life?
I feel really lucky that I'm a stage performer. A lot of my friends who are just actors never get to interact with people who are moved by their work. So in some ways it feels like my work is a love letter and in conversation with my fans all across the world. And I feel like it's whenever I'm feeling lonely or scared, I remember like, oh, I have this ragtag group of people all across the world who believe in me. And that's so different than I think growing up where I was so alienated, so isolated in Texas. It's very special to feel like I'm part of something greater than myself.
All right, so tell us what is happening next for Harry's situation? Where, after Fringe, what's next for you and what's next for the show?
Yeah, so I'll be doing a fall tour, me and Kamala Harris, not together, separately, in the swing states for different agendas.
Well, that would work for me, though. I would be into that, though.
So I'll be doing a fall tour across the U.S., and then I'll be taking it abroad again in 2025.
That's amazing. All right, I've been trying to ask as many people as I can this question at the end of our interviews. So many things have happened with your life, and you've chronicled that in your show. But right now, in this moment, what era are you currently in?
Oh, what a great question. Thank you so much. What era am I in this moment? I'm in my joy era.
Work.
I think for a long time I felt like okay, I've been dealt some pretty shitty cards. As a trans person of color, my life is not that easy. And then I realized I'm not responsible for my trauma, but I am for my own happiness. And so I've really been seizing that and being like, I get to live a good life. And that's going to irritate people and confuse people, but I get to. So it's my joy era.
Oh, that is a perfect answer. Guys, thank you so much for watching this interview. ALOK, thank you for speaking with us. If you're happen to be in Edinburgh for the rest of Fringe, go see ALOK show, Harry's Situation, or not, see them on tour. Thank you so much for talking.
Bye.